All right, here we go. What's going on, y'all? Eric Muldrow here with Code Red Conversations. I appreciate y'all for joining me. As you see, I have a special guest today. We talk a lot when it comes to the issue of politics and culture and theology, all that kind of stuff on our show. Any of y'all who are familiar with me. But today I have a special guest on today. I have my man Kevin Briggins from Informed Take. In my mind, he's one of the most informative voices on the issues when it comes down to politics and the the impact or the issues we see in our current culture, dare I say, primarily within the Christian or the Black communities. But his take, his views, his responses, his reactions go way deeper than that. So without further ado, once again, I want to introduce y'all and thank Mr. Kevin Briggins for coming on with us today, brother. I appreciate you for being here, man.
Absolutely, man. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad I can return the favor. We've reached out to you before
Yes, sir.
and your expertise and had you on. And so I'm glad to be able to return the favor.
Yeah, this should be good, man. Do me a favor, tell the audience a little bit about yourself, man. Tell it. We'll do it at the end, but I also
Yeah.
want to do it at the beginning. Like, tell us a little bit about yourself. What got you into wanting to discuss these issues? Because I know you work a lot. Uh, What's your exact relationship with the Center for Biblical Unity? Talk
Yeah.
about where people can find you. Give us
Yeah.
the whole breakdown.
Yeah. So I'm currently the managing director for the Center for Biblical Unity. And for those who aren't familiar with us, we tackle um, basically tough cultural and worldview issues,
Hmm.
and we frame it and help people deal with it from a biblical worldview. And so,
Nice.
just the nature of that job makes me have to pay attention to a lot of things that are going on in the world and culture, politics, anything that the church might be dealing with. And I got involved with them based on um, things that happened in my church years ago where I was serving as an elder 2016, 2017, when all like the woke stuff really happened.
Oh yeah.
And found myself on the front lines of that stuff and was like, what is this? Like, why are all my friends losing their minds? Right. Um, and then realized, oh, this thing is called critical race theory and start diving into it and reading and learning. Um, and then so by the time 2020 comes around and George Floyd happens, like I'm well versed in what this craziness is. Also, my background, I served 22 years in the Air Force as an intelligence analyst. So just being an analyst, being analytical, looking at things from an objective perspective,
Right.
and just trying to be as informed as I can to make the best decisions. So all of that kind of goes into how I ended up just kind of being just kind of engulfed in these issues is, my background in the military, geopolitics, been an intelligence analyst, and then just being an elder in a church, being a pastor, and dealing with issues that the church is dealing with. And so
Right.
one thing I've learned is you can't ignore the culture. A lot of
Mm,
pastors they just like, I'm just going to stick to the text and we're just going to ignore all of this stuff. I'm like, with your congregation, they're dealing with it.
brother.
And
I've been
so,
trying to real quick, man. Yeah, real quick.
yeah, you
Like
good.
that's one thing at my church. I've been trying to because I assist. I work with the like high school
Uh-huh.
kids
Yeah.
as far as high school age kids as far as like the ministry. And that's one thing that I've really been trying to get going is like a biblical apologetics and also incorporating how that impacts culture.
Yeah.
And I wrote up a little something and I was talking to the lead pastor over the youth. And I broke it all down like how many kids are walking away from the faith. And the fact that they are having these conversations, whether it's on TikTok or Instagram, these conversations are going on in the real world. And I know these are some hot topics and controversial topics, but I know and I can understand to some degree why pastors don't enjoy getting into these topics. But it seems like it would make far more sense for the church to say, okay, how do we think biblically about these various issues
Yeah.
as opposed to developing a secular perspective on whatever you talk about, whether it's Israel, whether we're talking about critical race theory, whatever the topic. It's like the church should be the forerunners in these conversations, but for
They
some reason
should.
we're shying back.
Because unfortunately, most pastors aren't equipped to deal with them. And that's why, the Center for Biblical Unity exists. We exist to
Mm,
be a resource. We've even worked with one seminary who realized that he was like, we are sending these pastors out of here and they are not equipped to handle the
wow,
issues of the culture, right?
wow.
They can handle the text, right? And they can
Yeah.
handle, the historic theology and Greek and Hebrew, but they are clueless on current
Mm,
worldview issues. And so that's why pastors are afraid to speak on it. A lot of times they don't know what to say. The examples I like to give is, BLM happens, right? Do
yeah.
you say something on Sunday morning? Do you not say anything? Charlie Kirk gets assassinated. Do you say something? Do you not
Right.
say something? Like, these are issues that pastors, and it's like, no, I just don't want to touch it. And so,
Mm,
because it could be divisive. And so they just rather not touch it. But if you're not discipling your people through issues, someone else is. They're
very
being
true.
discipled by something or someone, whether it's Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, TikTok, Facebook, like, they're being discipled on these issues. And if the pastors and the church is silent, then that's who we can't afford to be silent, you
No
know.
doubt.
And
No
so
doubt.
we just try to be a resource for pastors and church leaders and just everyday Christians to understand what these issues are and to look at it from a biblical perspective.
Right, right. You had said a moment ago that, and you don't have to go into it if you don't want to, but you had made reference to how when during while being an elders, you were dealing
Yeah.
with some issues at your church.
Yeah.
You want to go into a little bit of that
Yeah, I mean, I can, and I'll link. I'll send you an article you can link in the
description?
description. Yeah,
Right.
because this article is kind of what got me on everybody's radar.
Mm,
And it ended up in an article. It was a Facebook post, and our friend Lisa Spencer reached out to me and was like, "Brother, that Facebook post is 2,600 words.
dang.
Because she has a blog. She's like, do you mind if I just put this on a blog and blog it out?" I'm like, yeah, go ahead, whatever. And that's what kind of blew up, and people started to realize who I was and get me to come on
Right.
podcasts and stuff like that. But yeah, it was just me detailing what happened in our church because essentially I had a friend in my military unit who was not talking to me. And I knew it had to be something I said on social media. Like,
I don't know nothing about that. Not
yeah.
at
I'm like,
all.
we've been friends for 20 years. All of a sudden, I'm getting the cold shoulder, and it's hey and nothing else. And I'm like,
Mm,
and this went on for a while. And one day I was like, look, we need to talk. And when I say talk, I tell everybody, look, we cried it out because she was hurt by some things I had said. I didn't, that was not my intentions. But I
right.
realized that if she didn't understand why I was saying the things I was saying, that other people didn't understand.
Yeah.
Well, because I started to really speak out against some stuff, right? And
Now,
so
now, how long had you been studying this topic? Like, because you said that.
oh, by the time I wrote that was 2021. I had
Okay,
been
so
I
you
had
said
been in this since
2016.
2017. Yeah. And so
Okay, okay.
so what happened was 2016, you get George Floyd, not George Floyd, you get Colin Kaepernick, you get the Trump election 2016.
Yeah.
You get
You get like you get the whole Ferguson,
well, Ferguson
Ferguson.
was 2014. So
Okay,
2016, you had the Philando Castile and Alton Sterling shootings,
right,
right?
right.
And that's when Kaepernick started kneeling and that whole controversy, right? And then the controversy with Trump, and like I say, Ferguson was 2 years earlier, and so things are just hot, right?
Tell me, that's 2016 is when I got into this whole thing after that Dallas shooting.
Yeah,
All
yep.
them
And the Dallas
cops.
shooting was a
That right there,
retaliation.
that's what
Yes,
got me talking. That's when I got on other people's radar talking about these issues. But go
yeah.
ahead, bro.
And so what happened was my friends, a lot of my black friends in our church, started to dive into I just feel like they started to dive into their blackness, right? They
Mm,
started to read things, their perspective started to change. All of a sudden, they were oppressed. Black people were oppressed. Um, their white friends and church members who 6 months ago they was cool with, now all of a sudden, you know, they're all racist, and
yeah.
like it just took over, right? And so we ended up having these two factions in our church, kind of what I call the woke faction and like the hardcore right conservative, like just
Mm,
button heads. And they were bumping heads on Facebook, right? And it was public and it was ugly. It wasn't Christ like. Um, it was really, really bad. And so me being, they call me the Facebook elder because I was like the most prominent one on social media.
yeah.
I ended up being kind of like the referee, and I'm posting kind of like the way I post stuff on Substack now. Like I would post kind of like thoughtful things back then on Facebook.
Right.
Um, but my approach was not good enough for either side, right?
Mm,
The woke people, they just want to be militant. And then like the hardcore right people were just like, y'all need to, shut them down. Both sides want us to shut the other down. We was like, no, we're trying to, we were a healthy church 2 months ago, and now everybody's fighting, right?
wow.
We're trying to get y'all to walk together through this, right? We're trying to get the woke side to understand where the conservatives are coming from and and how they're hearing their rhetoric, they were right, and we knew they were right. Our
Yeah.
woke friends were heading down the road of liberalism. They were heading
Mm,
down the road of progressivism, right? We knew where that led to, and we're trying to stop them from going down that road.
yeah.
And you can't do that if all the thing you do is shut them down, right? We were trying to have the conversation. And so, um, yeah, so eventually what happened, one of our members, good friend of mine, well, was a good friend of mine, very talented guy, very charismatic. And he had already kind of started writing for some publications. Back in the day, there was a publication called RAN, Reform African American Network.
I
Uh,
remember.
yeah, they changed to the Witness once they became woke. They didn't want to be associated with Reformed anymore.
Hmm.
But yeah, it got real bad. But he was writing for them. I think he had written one article for what's David Platt's publication? I
Based off his book, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm trying to remember the name of the book.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank on it.
Yeah, but anyway, he had started kind of writing and getting a foundation, and so, but when he switched and went woke, so the first article that came out was a CNN article, and
Wow.
then there was the very next week it was a Washington Post article. And then later on, he ended up writing a book and a New York Times article, right? Detailing, the racism he experienced in the white evangelical church and all, which none of it was true, right? It was the lens in which he had
Pretty
adopted.
prominent. Is he still pretty prominent in the
I think
I mean,
he's,
I know it's not the hot
yeah,
topic that it once was. I mean, in some aspects, but
yeah.
because then just for what you're describing, I'm pretty sure I know who it is. I mean, I'm
uh,
kind of
yeah,
thinking I may know who it is. Maybe,
I think it's tailed off, just because it's not the hot topic anymore.
yeah,
Um, but um, But yeah, and so that's what I was dealing with, man. And it was ugly. And both of those factions eventually left the church, the extremes of both ends. That church today is thriving and healthy, and
that's good.
it's good. But that was one of the hardest periods of my life, and
Mm,
I didn't realize how much I was carrying the burden until I ended up moving and relocating for work.
yeah,
Um, and once I wasn't in that elder role anymore, once I wasn't like shepherding the burden of trying to like wrangle these people in and not lose them, um, man, you want to talk about physically feeling like a burden has been lifted off of you.
wow.
And I didn't realize how much it was weighing on me until I wasn't in it anymore, and I wasn't carrying it. But also once I didn't have the responsibility of shepherding people anymore, yeah, I started going in. I started going in on social media. It was no more Mr. Nice Kevin. It was no more
Right.
Elder Kevin. It was no more, hey, let me help you see where they're coming from. It was like, this stuff is from the pit of hell. Like
Mm,
theory, like I'm just going in. Going in on BLM. I mean, because they came out and admitted they were trained Marxists. Like we
right.
like, and so like, yeah, the gloves just came off because I didn't have to be referee anymore. And so that's when I realized people didn't realize why I was going off the way I was going off. And so I wrote on Facebook, ended up being 2,600 words. I just started writing out, look, this is what happened. And just explaining what critical race theory was and all that type of stuff. And yeah, and um just wanted to explain to people why I was, taking the position that I was taking. And like I said, that article kind of put me out there. It went what I call Christian Twitter viral.
Mm-hmm.
Neil Shinvey tweeted it out like 13 times that day.
Oh wow.
Like he
Wow.
just kept taking an excerpt and retweeting it back out. um, and so yeah, that's what happened, and that's kind of how I got on the scene. I was already known kind of by CFB. I had already found them. I had already started kind of engaging with them.
Yeah.
But once that happened, though, they started asking me to come on, be more involved. Like I said, different people started asking me to come on their podcast to kind of tell what happened and help people understand and walk through it. And so, yeah, that's kind of how it all started, how we got here. It was just dealing with wokeness in the church, man. And I saw how destructive it can be and how it distorts the gospel and how it distorts the relationship between brothers and sisters in Christ, because we're no longer brothers and sisters in Christ. We're oppressed and oppressors, right? And you start viewing people through that lens,
Yeah.
someone who hasn't sinned against you, right? But yet you're viewing them through a us and them lens, right? And that can't exist in the church. And then you start advocating for justice policies in the church and racial quotas, and we need more people of color in leadership, and the pastors not quoting enough black theologians, and like all of
Right.
this nonsense.
Bro, just you talking about it, it's almost like it's welling up in me, like that anger, man, that I had during that time when I saw pastors that I followed and that I
Yep.
really appreciated. The
Yep.
main one that pops in my head was Matt Chandler.
I knew you was going there. Yeah,
I
Matt.
would let my kids listen to his sermon, like before that
Yeah.
period,
Yeah.
like without fear, because I had listened to enough of his messages to where
Matt was spot
my,
on, man. He
my
was good. He was
kids could
solid.
listen, they could listen to him. I'd be like, yeah, check him out. But then I forget what incident it was. I don't know if it was.
It was George Floyd.
Yeah, I think it was before that.
It was before that. Oh, he started before that.
Before then, because I moved. I was in Arkansas in 2014 and until the end of 2016.
Okay.
And that's when somewhere in that period he started talking.
Yeah.
Like started talking, showing his true colors.
You know, right? It was that because he spoke at the MLK 50 conference. And I think that was 2019.
Yeah, because when he said that whole,
the black 7 over the white 8 or something like that. Yeah. Yeah.
But before that, there was a cop who was a member of his church.
Yes.
Who had a blog, and he wrote about the discussions that were going on in the church and him confronting Matt on his take on certain issues, jumping to conclusions. Let's say there's a shooting. It might have been like what are some of the ones you had mentioned that went
Philando
on?
Castile. That was the one in I think Minneapolis.
Yeah, it might have been that one, or there was another one that took place and instead of waiting, going the biblical route, waiting to get more information, out of the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let every truth be established. Instead of being patient, he just jumped to conclusion that the cops were evil. And I just started seeing that, man. I was just like, what the heck happened to this man?
Because he got woke. And like I said, man, I used to really love Matt Chandler. The first time I saw or knew who Matt Chandler was at Together for the Gospel. I think it might have been 2010. And he spoke. He had cancer, and it's one of those things of it changed him. He didn't know if he was going to make it. He had no hair. He was completely bald.
Yeah.
I think it was brain cancer. And man, just powerful testimony, powerful, like just solid, on fire for God. First things first. And what happened over that time was, and this is one of the reasons I started speaking out, is well-intended people like Matt Chandler started listening
Yeah.
to the wrong black people,
Mm.
right? And they started to feel guilt. They started to feel like they had been complicit in the system of racism, and
Yeah.
I had no,
Benefiting from the oppression
yeah,
and
yeah, and I had no idea that you guys had it so bad and what was going on, and like, but now I'm aware, and so now that you're aware, what are you going to do? You got to speak out. You got to be an
yeah.
ally, right? You can't be silent. You can't be
Right.
complicit. And so
Right.
that's why he's speaking out. That's why he was, the police shooting happens. He's not waiting for the details because he has to stand with his black brothers and sisters, right? Who are weeping, weep with those who weep, and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, this is what I always said about that. No one's asking you to weep with those who weep. That's not what they're asking you to do. They're making a claim that an injustice occurred, and they're asking you to stand by them in this injustice, right?
Mm.
You can't just walk with them in that. You have to make a determination if that is a true claim or not, right?
Right.
And they were like, "Stop asking about the facts." Like, how we? No. It was complete emotional manipulation, and people like Matt Chandler fell for it because he had black friends that were emotional, that were crying, that were scared, that were all of these things that were real. And I don't fault him for falling. I won't say falling for it. I don't fault him for feeling the way he felt, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Showing compassion towards a brother
yes,
or sister
yes.
who that you trust, that you probably developed a relationship over time. We were talking about Matt Chandler and like
Yeah,
how he kind of, and
yeah.
we were discussing.
Basically saying like, yeah, I understand why he felt that way, why he felt the need to speak up and say
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
And you see your friends, and then they're telling you, and they're educating you, and you're listening as the white person who doesn't have the lens you didn't know. And
hmm
um, that's why I felt the need to speak up as someone who does know,
right,
who's someone who is, grew up poor, grew up in the inner city, grew up in, all black schools, grew up in the black church, like
right.
in the deep South, like whatever you want to talk about in terms of this topic. I grew up, I lived it. And so, um, I always say anybody who grew up in the inner city, unless you were a drug dealer or a gangbanger, like no one thought the police were the bad guys. I'm just gonna be
Mm,
real, right?
mm,
Nobody, people weren't walking around afraid of the police in the 90s, like it was the Jim Crow 60s or something. Like that just
yeah,
wasn't a thing. But then all of a sudden, Trayvon Martin and Mike Brown happened in Ferguson, and all of a sudden, when like black people are just afraid of the police, like no, 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 no. The hood, the people in the hood always wanted more police, right?
no doubt.
Because the people who was terrorizing the neighborhood was not the police, right? It was the young men shooting each other, gang violence, drug violence, that was the issue. And
Yeah,
now they want to spin it and talking about defunding the police and all of this craziness. And so I just felt the need to speak up because it was almost like, and this, if you're black, you're supposed to stay online. You're supposed to stay on
oh yeah,
message.
oh
You can't go
absolutely.
against the narrative or the majority. And I was like, nah, this ain't even, this ain't real. This is not reflective of truth. Um, and so yeah, I just started speaking up, man, and like I said, my tone changed a little bit, and people kind of was like, man, Kevin is, you know, not as nice as he used to be. And I had to just be like, I'm sorry, y'all. My bad. I thought y'all knew, why I was attacking what I was attacking. And
Yeah,
so, and like people's emotional. Like I'm coming against Black Lives Matter in a time where, Black Lives Matter is the thing that everybody's supposed to be representing. And it's like, nah, we being played. We're being
yeah. The
manipulated.
NBA put it on their court,
Yes. Yes. Like it
and
was
I went.
everywhere.
And this is from a brother who was a die-hard NBA fan. Like hardcore Knicks fan. I watched. I didn't can't say I watched every game, but that was a regular routine watching inside the NBA with Shaq, Kenny Smith, Ernie Johnson, and Charles Barkley enjoyed basketball. But then when they started, all they talked about was the political environment.
Yep.
And it just happened to come about. Like racism just happened to be at its worst when Trump came back into office. Like
Yep.
just coincidentally. I mean, they would say it wasn't. They say he emboldened racists. That's what the claim was. But when I started seeing my beloved basketball just get pimped out
Yeah.
by all these activist types, I lost interest. And
Yeah.
here we are in like 2020, after George Floyd died, they lost their mind.
They
Like
did.
they lost their mind
100% lost their
when
minds.
everything say his name on their jersey, say her name. Every
Yeah.
incident.
Oh, and the bubble was horrible.
Oh, bro, I couldn't even watch it. I could not. I said I'm done with the NBA. And it hasn't been until recently, I'm talking about like this season, while I watched a few games here and there. The Knicks are really strong for the first time in like.
Hey, you might want to forgive them and tune in right now, man. They're in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, so. I saw that, man. Like they're like, I'm talking about. I was a really hardcore fan from like their run in the 90s.
Yeah.
When they made it to the finals against Houston. And it's been a long, hard struggle ever since then. I mean, they had moments where they made it to the finals, but they just had no chance, whatnot. And but when the NBA, ESPN, all of these sports outlets just lost their mind chasing after BLM.
Yep.
You got Max Kellerman and Stephen A. Smith talking politics. And I'm like, dude, I watched this because I enjoy sports.
Jamel Hill and Michael Smith. I feel bad for Michael Smith because I feel like Jamel Hill just derailed his career by derailing their show.
Oh, completely. I mean, do you think he was against it? Like,
I don't know, because he kind of fell off the face of the earth. Like, she's very outspoken and active and still out there. I have no idea what happened to him.
Right,
so I don't know.
But it was like the world lost their mind, and you're talking about friendships that you had, dudes that knew me for 20, 15, 20, 30 years. Mm-hmm. Next you know, we're clashing.
Yeah.
We're friends on Facebook, and next you know, I mean, they're already looking at me a little side-eyed when I got saved anyway, for some of my – but then when the Lord really started opening my eyes to worldview, how my Christian faith is supposed to impact every aspect of my life. And here I am, a so-called Democrat, and I'm looking at the abortion view and their stance on the LGBT issues and their distortion of who God is and every issue. And I looked at it biblically. I was like, I can't be a Democrat. It was just like a process I went through where it was like, there's no way I could turn around and say I support this political party when everything that they stand for, God hates. There's no way.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, man, it was like that 2014 to mainly, what would you say, 2021, 2022? Like when things like that was like the height of it all.
Yeah.
It was like that's when, friends were lost. And then I just, you just realize that's the cost of trying to follow Jesus and trying to be faithful.
Yeah.
I really just started understanding that, man. It was hard. There were aspects of it. I mean, family members, like me and family members, like not talking.
I mean, brutal, same. Brother. I'm here, man. A lot of my family members just unfriended me on Facebook. Like, I'm just, I'm uninvited from the cookout per se.
Man, hey, that happened to me a long time ago, and it's really funny. Like, I still have just some people that remain. They know Eric, and they're like, man, Eric, I don't agree with him on these issues, but I know him. He's a good man. I love him. And we'll always be friends. They probably hate my political takes.
Yeah.
But we will always be friends. But that's it seemed like that was a minority. And so every now and then when we get back together, somebody retired from the police department, we'll get back together and we'll be sitting back talking, chopping it up about old times. It's like it's no big deal. We just avoid certain topics.
Yeah.
Because we know that we're going to disagree. That's kind of like the decision we made.
Yeah. Let me know if this is your experience. So, like, I mean, I switched from Democrat to Republican in 2003. I was 22 years old. became, my first election as an adult. Because in 2020, I was 19, right? And so I tell everybody
And
I
what
went
year
from
you were 19?
2020, not 2020, the year 2000, the
Okay.
year 2000. And so I went from being upset that Al Gore lost to Bush to, being pro Bush in 2004, right?
Oh wow.
Because I became an adult, I started to pay attention to the issues, and I realized that my beliefs and my values didn't align with the party that I was voting for and supporting and grew up supporting. And so,
So what
yeah,
was the I don't mean to interrupt, man, just for
yeah.
you to break it down a little further. What changed over that period?
Um, I will say so. I joined the Air Force in 2022. Like I
Okay.
say, I became an intelligence analyst. I started watching and paying attention to things closely, and then just like then realizing that my biblical conservative views that I grew up learning were not in the party that I had been
Right.
brought up to vote for. It didn't make sense,
Right.
right? And so I just aligned with my values and started voting the other way. Um, and so that was so it wasn't like a single event. It was just I started to pay attention to the issues and
Yeah.
evaluate those issues against what I believed,
Okay.
and just started voting with the side that fell on. And so it wasn't like, and I've told this story before on different shows, but I went home one day and I remember asking my mom, it's like, why are we Democrats? And she was like, I, I don't know. We just always have been. And I was
Mm.
like, nah, right. Nah, I'm done. And so, yeah, I switched to vote my values. And so I say all I have to say is, first of all, I never changed. My values were always the same. I
Yeah.
just changed how I voted. Um, but in terms of, okay, people know I'm a conservative, people know I'm a Republican, or whatever you want to call it, right?
Right.
It had been since 2003. So it ain't like I changed and switched up in 2016 or anything like that, right? And so the fact that people were trying, acting all funny, and this is what I want to ask you, because this is kind of how I saw it.
Right.
I view Obama like Tiger Woods. You know how black people didn't care nothing about golf or pay attention to golf until Tiger Woods became a thing?
Oh yeah.
I felt like that about politics with Obama. A lot of black people, even though they would go out and vote and Democrat and all, but they didn't pay attention to politics like that,
Mm.
right? Until Obama. Obama made them fans. Like just like Tiger Woods made them fans. They became Obama fans,
Yeah.
right? And all of a sudden they became very passionate about issues they knew nothing about.
Wow.
you know
That
and
makes
like I
sense.
said, because I didn't change, I've been this since 2003, and now all
Yeah.
of a sudden it's a problem. Like, that don't make sense. And it's because,
How
like,
did
they
people treat you? Don't forget the point you were making. How did people treat you in 2003 when they found out that you, as a black man, was a Republican slash conservative?
it wasn't as big of a deal because social media wasn't a big deal back then,
True. True.
right? And
Yeah.
so unless it came up in a conversation, and I would talk about it, um but you're talking about it, at holidays and around the dinner table, and you're just talking about issues. But yeah, they knew where I landed and where I stood, but it just wasn't a deal breaker. But
Yeah.
after Obama, it became a deal breaker,
Oh yeah.
and that's when I was like, what changed? And this thing, I'm be
Obama.
honest, today is ironic. We're recording this today. I unfriended someone for the very first time. I've never unfriended anyone.
Really?
I've always been like, man, bygones be bygones. I don't care. We can disagree. I don't care. Right. Um, it got to a point that there was somebody I had to unfriend someone for the very first time.
Wow.
And yeah, and it just because it just got ridiculous. But um I've been unfriended so many times. Like I didn't realize, like I was like, man, I hadn't heard from so and so in so long. Then you go and check on like, and it says like add friend. I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't know.
Hey, I've seen it. I've had the same exact thing happen to me, man. Yeah, I wonder what's going on. Next thing you look, oh, okay, I
No,
see how it
yeah.
is.
Yeah,
but it explains everything.
it
But
does.
you talking about like being the first man. If I don't know you, and you start talking ignorant. Disagreeing is one thing. If you disagree and you want to
Yeah.
challenge my perspective, it's all good. But the minute you start being ignorant, or you try to act like you're an expert in a field that I've been doing for decades, and
Yes.
you're trying to correct me,
Yeah.
I'm like, you're not.
Yeah.
And then when I make my points, and then you don't even want to hear what I have to say, I realize you're not even being an honest actor in this discussion we're having. And I'll unfriend and block with a quickness. Like I got
Well, I
no
did it
problem
today for
doing
the
it.
first time, and it had
Wow,
been
you better
years.
man than me, brother.
It had
You
been
better
years, man, and I just finally said, this is a drain and a waste of time. Um, yeah, and it's just yeah. The person they claim that it doesn't matter or they don't care, but they're constantly commenting. I'm like, why are you here? Why are you here if it doesn't matter or you don't care? Like
They
you
clearly,
care because yeah,
when you said Obama was a factor, it was really crazy, man, because I was a huge Obama supporter, and I was typically everything that you're describing.
hmm
Became a fan. That was me.
yeah,
I was familiar remotely with politics here and there, but I didn't know the issues at all,
yep,
not on any big level. But when Obama got involved, and smooth talking brother,
yep,
he spoke well, carried himself well, had a cool factor about him. I was all in, man. And then when as time went on, the Lord really started dealing with my heart, because I've given my testimony before. I lived like a hypocrite for 20 years, man, professing to
yeah,
be a Christian, living, running after the world. Um, in 2009, 2010, the Lord really started dealing with me and dealing with the weight of my sin, like really
mm,
making me aware of it.
yeah,
I got saved around 2010, and I remember just listening to Obama and looking at his policies and stuff like that. 2012 rolled around. I was like, "There's no way in the world I could vote for this man." I
yeah,
went from being like, "I gotta vote for this dude," to "There's no way in the world I can vote for this man." So I didn't vote at all in 2012.
yeah,
But the the thing that changed everything was my Christian values,
yeah.
and I bring that over to, like, you take I have I have some family members. Won't be specific about it, but
He talking about you, Sheila. No, I'm just playing. I'm just playing.
right. But when we have conversations where when I talk about the main issues,
hmm
they're professing Christian. When I talk about the issues, they have a hatred of conservatives and Republicans.
Because yeah,
But the conversation I had I said, "You're a Republican. You're a conservative." I said,
yes,
I don't tell me what side you on. I said, on the issues, you are conservative. You and I are in agreement when it comes to abortion. You and I are in agreement when it comes to gay marriage and the importance of the family.
yep,
You and I are in agreement when it comes down to transitioning kids. You and I are in agreement when it comes down to being able self-defense, being able to protect yourself, shutting down the border. We are 100% in agreement on it, but somehow you've convinced yourself that you hate everything from the conservative values, from the conservative side. I said, help me understand, like, what.
it's real simple. Uh, Democrats are for black people. Republicans are racist. That's what they believe. That is what they believe.
It's
And
yeah,
yeah,
go. You know what? That's one of the things I want to talk to you about, man. Like, yeah, go ahead and just flow with it. What were you going to
yeah.
say?
Now I was gonna kind of go back to the root of where that came from. It came back to LBJ passing the Civil Rights Act.
Yes, sir.
Um, it came back down to Barry Goldwater in '64.
Hmm.
So before 1964, the black vote was pretty split, right? 1964 was the first presidential election that black people voted 90% or above one way. And we've been voting that way ever since.
What year
And it
was
had
it?
64.
Wow.
And it had everything to do with the Civil Rights Act because Barry Goldwater, who was the Republican nominee for president, was against the Civil Rights Act.
Mm.
And here's the thing: he was from Arizona, so he wasn't from the South. He was from Republican from Arizona, and he's a libertarian, wasn't even a conservative, right? When
Okay.
I say he wasn't a conservative, he was a conservative because he wrote a book called The Conscience of a Conservative, but his values were very libertarian, right? And so he was all big on, limited federal government, and
Yeah.
he didn't oppose the Civil Rights Act on moral basis. He agreed morally that black people needed to be treated equally and all this type of stuff. He believed there was a federal overreach on the state, right? And so he opposed it. Well, black people all went to Democrats, and the people in the South, for the very first time, the South went red. Like the
Mm.
South used to be all blue. It was the Democrats, right?
Yeah.
1964, the South went red. And the crazy thing is he only won the South. He got destroyed that election. The whole map is blue, except for the Southeast is red. And it
Mm.
was all about the Civil Rights Act. But that was the first election that black people voted heavily one way. Because you gotta remember, people say, man, Martin Luther King was a Republican, right? But they all switched
Yeah.
because the Democrats decided that black people is kind of going to be the target area, right? LBJ say I had these Negroes voting Democrat for the next 200 years. And so far, he's been right for 60. He's been right, right? Because not only they signed the Civil Rights Act, they signed the Voter Rights Act, and they signed, you had the war on poverty, right? They were making all of these systemic changes, but the whole
Yeah.
time they're doing that, because people are thinking, oh, look what they're doing for black people and minorities and the poor. The whole time he's doing that, what he's really doing is expanding federal power,
Mm.
right? That's really what he's doing.
Right.
Because the Civil Rights Act and all that kind of stuff gave the federal government this power and oversight, right? So that's why even now, if you own a company, you got to report to the federal government what your hiring numbers are,
Yeah.
because they got to make sure that you got enough minorities that you're hiring. You're not discriminating, right? And so the federal government gained all this power to be able to overwatch and make sure that the Civil Rights Act and the Voters' Rights Act was actually being upheld. Of course, the war on poverty did.
Yeah, it just did more damage than good.
Yeah,
Ultimately.
exactly. But this is the thing when it comes to the black community and the government. The downfall of us is that the civil rights movement was successful.
Mm.
And what I
Yeah,
mean by
yeah,
that is,
unpack that. Yeah, yeah.
it taught black people that the way to get progress is through government action and through activism, right?
Mm.
And that's why I try to break the dependency and the kind of worship of Dr. King,
Yeah,
because a lot of things Dr. King advocated for and did wasn't good for us,
right.
right? But when Dr. King is the standard, that's how you get that dude in Tennessee, the little Afro dude. I forgot his name, but
Yeah, I know
you know
exactly
what
what
I'm
you're talking
talking
about.
about. You know who
I'll
I'm
put
talking
him up
about.
here. Yeah, I'll put a
Yeah,
picture or
yeah.
him up
That's
there
why
trying to
that
preach sound like MLK /
exactly
Malcolm X.
because MLK is the standard. Like that's what it means to be black. That's what it means to be a black politician. The Al Sharptons, the Jesse Jackson, rest his soul. That became the mold for what it meant to be a leader in the black community. So, and the reason that is because Dr. King became the standard that you had to be and model, right? And so, what did Dr. King do? Activism, social politics, and the social gospel from the pulpit, right? There wasn't no
Right,
Jesus.
right.
There was no death, burial, and resurrection. It was all
About the oppressed,
political.
yeah, about the oppressed rising up against the oppression.
Yep. Yep. It was all political. It was all activism, right? And it was all about what they owed us. You can't tell
Mm.
a bootless man to pull himself up by his bootstrap. This is what y'all owe us. The promissory note. Dr. King was advocating for a mass wealth, a mass redistribution of wealth, is what he was, demanding for, like, to make it right. And so that's all Black people have known since the 60s. And we've been hooked on that message, that strategy, sitting around waiting for somebody to do something for us.
Like
Right?
some Black Messiah to rise up and save
Exactly.
us from
Because
the
we
oppressor.
because we can't get ahead until the white man does us right. Right? It's just
Right.
and I'll to prove my point. So a couple of days ago, you had the Louisiana and the Tennessee redistricting
Yeah.
maps thing, right? Even here where I live in Alabama, they did it, and down at the courthouse at the state at the state capitol, Black people down there marching and singing "We Shall Overcome," and I'm like, y'all need to stop. But my point is that they're hooked on that. They've never left the 1960s. They've never left the civil rights movement, right? And because of that, they're stuck because to them, that's the playbook. That is how we win. That is how we succeed. That is how we get progress, is through basically forcing the government to give us something. Um, and that's why the Black community has been stuck where it's been, because Democrats have taken advantage of that. Black leadership has sold out Black people, whether it's the pulpit or the politicians, right? They're all in cahoots together. It's all
Yeah.
about them getting paid. Um,
Right.
it's all about them getting paid and them staying in power, right? Because the Tennessee Afro guy this past Sunday, the video that's going viral is
Yeah.
him at the church.
These maps are racist tools of white supremacy at the behest of the most powerful white supremacist in the United States of America, Donald J. Trump.
Right, with the mic. And this is what I try to tell people that don't understand this. I grew up in the Black church. Not just Black. Democrat politicians every year came to our church on Sunday
Oh, yeah.
morning and got
yeah.
the mic, right? There was no separation of church and state. There was no, it was very political. And the fact that this guy is up here at this church acting a fool and acting like he's shouting and all this kind of stuff, he's a charlatan and an actor.
And I was reading my Bible early this morning, asking God why this is happening. Why, again, does it seem that white supremacy is seeming to gain? Why, again, does it seem like the pillars of pain that we have felt and experienced for over 400 years in this country continue to rise again?
But the whole church is saying amen and going for it. That is the state of the Black community right there. And that is why you can't convince your family members to vote the other way or to consider the other way, because they've been emotionally manipulated to believe, especially when you're hearing it from your church. This is from your church.
Yeah.
So your church is telling you this. Big Mama told you this. MSNBC and Joy Reid telling you this. Ricky Smiley telling you this, right? Everything they're hearing is reaffirming the same message over and over again. And then when it's coming from your pastor and when it's coming from the church, there's nothing you can tell these people to get them to look the other way, because it's a betrayal of everything they know.
It's really wild, man. It's like, and all the things that you're saying, I can resonate with, because I remember believing a lot of that same stuff. I remember thinking I have to work 5 times harder to get ahead.
I've heard that so much.
I remember telling other Black folks that, like, and believing it.
Yeah,
man, in order for me to get ahead, you got to work 5 times as hard. It's like, but then it's, I hear what you're saying, and I'm not disagreeing with it. I think now that I'm on the outside looking in, it boggles my mind how people can be so indoctrinated. But it took my conversion for my eyes to be opened.
Yeah.
So as baffling as it all is, now I think back on how indoctrinated I was to believe the rhetoric. Now, there's a part of me that still agreed. Like, I didn't agree with abortion and all the other things I brought up, the LGBT and and I thought we need to be tough on crime, all this kind of stuff. But I couldn't see myself voting for Republican. And it goes back to what you said was the race thing.
Yeah.
It was the point that, these people don't care about black folks. All
Yeah.
they care about is money and power. And then like now I look back on it and I'm like, who are the ones that really care about money and power, and who are the ones that really don't care? And that's what gets me, because like now when I look at the issues, when I look at just take the last 4 years, when I look at the border, when they're just letting tens of millions of people, in some estimates of people, come across this border, taking away benefits. When you look at cities like Chicago, New York, places like that were overran by illegals, and you saw these black folks saying these people are getting benefits that I'm not getting. And I'm a citizen. Like, they're like, what the hell is going on here? But you still have people who will ignore that. They'll see the fact that they're soft on crime, and crime primarily impacts the inner city, minority communities. It in one aspect, it just boggles my mind, blows my mind how they are unable to see what's really going on in front of them. Who gets hurt when police officers don't make it in Chicago, on the South Side? Who gets hurt? Who gets hurt in this
But
somewhere down?
That's why you have to blame everything on systemic racism, right? Everything is the product. Southside Chicago is just the product of systemic racism and white supremacy on black people. That's it. There's no personal responsibility. There's no self-reflection.
Oh, definitely not.
And
that's why they get so mad at us when we say we need to do better.
Yeah,
that's part of the reason.
And the Democrats want to keep it that way because they're the ones who've been in power and in charge of our communities and our cities for decades. You think they want you to think that they're the problem? No,
absolutely.
They say no. The problem is over there. The problem is, and we just got to keep the good fight going, and people fall for it. We fall for it
every single time.
Yeah, every single time, and there's no account because what did Joe Biden say? They're gonna put y'all back in chains, right?
That's what gets me, man. That's what gets me. When they go up in the black churches or get in front of a group of black people, then they start acting black, start talking black.
Yep.
And they be up there, all right now. Amen, sister. Amen, brother. When you got AOC up there, you got Hillary Clinton getting up there. All of them, all of a sudden now, they got to turn it way up. They got to turn the black volume way up.
Yeah.
And they start and the inflections in their voice, like they're a Sunday school preacher or something like that. It's like these folks are blind to the reality. It's almost like this a mockery, or they're only doing this just like the hot sauce comment with Hillary.
Yeah.
Hot sauce. She keeps hot sauce in her purse. And it's just like
no. Worse. What's worse than that? Kamala Harris, while she washed her greens in the bathtub. Girl, don't nobody do that. Don't nobody do that. Like, yeah, you Indian. Yeah, you Indian.
Right. Man, I'm telling you, it's like it blows my mind. They get so offended when Trump says something off the pocket, and he does all the time. He says something crazy. I'm trying to defend him one sentence. Next thing you know, he over here, posting something like he Jesus or whatever. I mean, but at the same time, it's like we can be consistent and call that out. Yep. Like we'll call it out. He says something crazy, says something blasphemous. We'll be like, Trump, you ain't got to do all that. But on the left, I even posted this a few weeks back. I said, at least many of us, not all clearly, but many of us Christian conservative types, when Trump does something silly or somebody in his administration says something dumb, we can call it out. But the folks on the left, like I don't ever honestly recall seeing somebody be critical of Barack Obama or Joe Biden when he left the border wide open or did half the crazy stuff that he did, or his bad withdrawal out of Afghanistan. Yeah. I don't ever remember them coming out and being critical of that dude.
Yeah, and that's what I do. I don't play the Trump game because it has nothing to do with Trump. And this is what I mean by that. These people said the same thing about John McCain, Mitt Romney, George Bush. This ain't about Trump. they said the same stuff about the. Think of John McCain, nice old man. They called him racist. They did this like it has none. That's why I don't play the Trump game because I get Trump is not a likable person. He's egotistical. He's an egotistical businessman. If you want to know how I understand Trump, everything is about a negotiation and a deal, and he loves himself some him.
And he's prideful. Yes.
He's very prideful. Right. I get that. But at the same time, I look at his policies. I look at what he says he wants to achieve.
Real quick, talk about that. Talk about that, man, because I have people looking at me crazy because they're like, how can you support him? How can you support Donald Trump?
Because that's the thing. I don't support Donald Trump. They make it about the person. It's not about the person. It's the platform. And if you look at the two platforms and you call yourself a Christian, there's no way you can be Democrat. Because their platform is all LGBTQ, right? It is all, they want to say pro-choice, but it's pro-abortion. Let's be real. Right? They're in cahoots with Planned Parenthood. The whole point is to have as many abortions as possible. And then just everything they do is just anti-God. The Obama administration, when they was arguing for gay marriage at the Supreme Court, the justice asked them, hey, could churches lose their tax exempt status if they don't go along with this? And Obama administration, the lawyer said, yes, that's a possibility.
Wow.
Right? So don't tell me, like, as a Christian, I'm supposed to like that the Democrat Party is not anti-Christian. They are very anti-Christian, you know? And so as a Christian, I don't have any other choice. Now, that doesn't mean I have to vote Republican, but I sure not vote Democrat. And in 2016 and 2020, I did not. Right? I did not vote for Trump because of who Trump is and the way he was acting. And like I said, I was going through all that stuff in our church, and I wanted to kind of stay above reproach and still have influence. So I knew if I cast a vote for Trump, man, I was going to lose all influence and credibility. Right. And so I didn't those two elections, but I did in 2024, and I wrote why I was voting for him. And at the end of the day, I said, I'd rather live in a world with mean tweets than a world that we can't determine what a woman is. Right. The worldview issues, like, I don't have to like Trump, but the worldview issues with the Democrat Party is just completely unbiblical. Like, I can't square it. Right. I can't square open borders. I can't square.
No sense, man.
Yeah, I can't square defund the police. I can't square LGBTQIA plus exclamation point, whatever they want to add to it. Like, I can't square that. I can't square pronouns and
transitioning
men and women sport and transitioning kids and drag queen story hour and all of this stuff they're doing. I'm like, how can you vote for that?
Like, and that's the point. That's why I really wanted you to really go in deep on that, man, because that's when it's all said and done, Trump may be, a difficult individual. He may not have the greatest personality, flawed and, sinful man. But when it's all said and done, what policies is he enacting that are going to impact us as a nation, as a whole, that are going to impact me as an individual, impact my family, impact my faith? Those are the things that I try to tell people about. You got to divorce yourself from the fact that Trump could be, is a vain, rude, disrespectful billionaire New Yorker. You have to divorce yourself, because when it's all said and done, I want to be able to know that my kid, that like I said, him sealing up the border for me, and then putting reins on this whole, the whole woke stuff in around the country. And being able to talk about what a woman is and not trying to say you don't know, and like I said, all that pronoun foolishness. And being one of the most, correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the most pro-life presidents I've seen that I'm aware of in recent years, like, defunding Planned Parenthood. He's done a lot.
No, he's done some stuff. Defund Planned Parenthood. He put the justices on the court that overturned Roe v. Wade. Now his personal opinions is he's. This is what I try to tell people. If you want to understand Trump politically, his policies, so he pushes policies that people around him want him to push, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, Trump is a 1990s Democrat. He's Bill Clinton. That's what he is.
Yep.
His abortion views are safe, legal, and rare, which used to be the standard Democrat Party line. That's what Trump is.
Right.
And so, like, this idea that he's some far right fascist, like he's Bill Clinton with a very egotistical personality.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
like this idea that it was going to be, you know, basically a Christian theocracy and Trump, like, you think that man, the way he's lived his life, like,
that's the last thing he wants.
Yeah, exactly.
But comparatively, like now, considering both parties have gone left, when a guy like Trump comes around, that's probably like way I'm looking at it. And somebody who wasn't really into politics way back then,
yeah,
it seems like in recent years, he's like the most reasonable one policy-wise when it comes down to where he stands on a lot of issues that would seem to be common sense to most people.
And
now,
and as a conservative, we've had to compromise because Trump isn't fully conservative, like on abortion. Like, you know, he kicked it down to the states and said, "Okay, I'm done with it." You know, he took traditional marriage off of the Republicans' national platform.
Yeah,
right. He's basically that's not something we're gonna run on.
He did.
And so, like, and even like his tariffs, conservatives have typically been very, very free trade. That's kind of been the conservative Republican position, free trade. Trump took what's called fair trade position, which has typically been the Democrat position of raising tariffs and stuff like that. There's a clip going around from Nancy Pelosi on the Senate, and she's been around so long. She was on like the Senate floor in 1996, arguing about how China was screwing us over and about the trade deficit with China and tariffs. And I'm like, man, she sounds like Trump. Yep. Like, it's crazy. That's why I say Trump is just a 90s Democrat. Remember, what did Bill Clinton run on? Tough on crime.
Yep.
Right? That's what Trump ran on. But today, oh, no, that's racist. Oh, no, that's targeting the Black community. And it has to do with the left has changed because even they blame Bill Clinton for the
94 crime bill.
Yeah, 94 crime bill. But this is the thing. I don't have amnesia. I remember Black people wanted that. Matter of fact,
I remember that.
The National Black Caucus is the one who was promoting it. Like, I remember 94, 95. I was a teenager. I remember the drugs and the gangs and the shootings and how dangerous it was. People wanted something done, and they wanted
epidemic.
They wanted these people off the street. Yep. And so the idea that crack got, no, they look back on it and it's like, you're punishing crack at a higher level of cocaine. That's racist. That was white supremacy. Like, no, Black people wanted that. We said, no, lock them up.
Black folks were killing Black folks.
Yeah.
Like it was I think during the 90s.
It was crazy, man.
The crime rate, the homicide rate was ridiculous, man.
It was crazy,
like, it was insane. And a lot of, like you said, people have amnesia or they weren't even old enough to even know what was going on. So now they're dealing with revisionist history.
Yeah.
And they're saying that, things weren't really that bad when it came down to crack. The guy selling cocaine at the club, the Cuban dude slinging in Miami wasn't like the crack cocaine being slung on the streets of Chicago. You know what I'm saying?
No, because they were killing each other over drug corners, right?
And innocent drive-by shootings.
Drive-by shootings. Man, I live down the street. So I lived in a house, but I lived down the street from two project communities on different sides of the street. One was nicknamed Lil Vietnam and one was nicknamed Lil Korea. And they were calling that because they were war zones. And I'm serious. Like, if there was a medical emergency, the ambulances would not go in unless the police went in first.
Wow.
Like, that's how bad it was. Wow. Right? Gunshots every day, all day. Like, you just get used to gunshots. Sirens in the middle of the night. That's just normal background noise. I remember I was in high school and I was talking to this girl on the phone and she was a suburban girl, right? She lived in the suburbs. She didn't know nothing about the hood. And we talking on the phone, and she was like, "Was those gunshots?" And I had to think about it for a minute because I wasn't paying attention. I was like, yeah. I said, but that was like, it wasn't even close. And she's like, but it was gunshots. I was like, yeah, but it was like 2 streets over. Like, I think back on that conversation now, like that was wild. Like that was just normal to me.
Yeah. You had gotten desensitized to it.
I had gotten desensitized to it. That was normal. The gunshots were 2 streets over. That's not close. I'm not moving for that. Right. But that was the situation in the hood.
Yeah.
And, and I don't know if you remember this, or I know you were a cop in the military, but are you familiar with the term jump out boys?
Vaguely familiar.
So it might be a thing in the South. So
yeah,
we called them the jump out boys. This was about 95.
Okay.
The jump out boys were, and you can look this up in Urban Dictionary, is a thing. It was basically a SWAT team. And they would ride around, and sometimes they would have the back doors of the van open because they've been a van, and you could see them. They tactical gear, they got rifles, and it was like a show of force. Like, this is what our neighborhood is. The police are riding around in a van with assault rifles and tactical gear. Wow. And they would call the jump out boys because they would do strategic hits. So, like, let's say they're driving, they would cut a car off and they just all just jump out and get everybody out the car, or they would run up and do a drug raid all of a sudden. But they did that like one summer, man, it was so quiet. It was so quiet and peaceful. So I say that to say, like, nobody in the hood, unless you was involved in that type of activity, thought the police were the bad guys. Right. No, the old people in the neighborhood love the police. Right.
When you say that, man, it makes me think back when I was on patrolling here in downtown Las Vegas. The people who would call us, and this is what didn't make the news. These grandmas.
Yep.
And these moms.
Yep.
Who got
single
kids,
moms. Yep. Absolutely.
And they're like, can y'all please do something about these dope dealers on these streets?
Yes.
And these idiots loitering on our sidewalk. I can't even walk down the steps because we got these idiots fighting and cussing and smoking dope. Yep. Can y'all please do something to get these guys out of there? And then when we came through and we started doing major enforcement, foot patrol in some of these bad areas, they would call and they would thank us. They would be so appreciative. They do it on the down low.
Yeah.
Like they would write a note and give it to the property manager. So when we go into the office, that property manager would give it to us, and they would give us all types of intel. Or just say, or I'd be on the street, I'm walking, they walk by, they'd be like, Officer Muldrow, thank you. And they would just keep on going. Because they don't want to be looking like snitches. But these are the people that we dealt with. They were calling our station. They were calling the sheriff's office.
Yeah.
Saying, could you please have officers come down here and deal with these problems?
Yep.
But when it comes down to the media and the political left, they always, and it goes back to every year they get into power, they get in office, all of a sudden they want to turn around and they want to make cops or any level of law enforcement have to be the bad guy.
Yep.
Look what they did with ICE. Look what they did in 2016, 2020. Every time you turn around, they end up vilifying the good guy. When I look at the Democratic Party, man, I literally look at them when I think of the verse in Isaiah, woe to those who call evil good and good evil. Like, absolutely. I literally look at them as that, man.
Absolutely.
And just real, I don't want to keep you too long, man. But when we look at the issue, like one thing I want to go back to, like the you kind of touched on it a little bit, like the redistricting map.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about it. Talk about a little bit about it, because the narrative, the media narrative, is that this is racially motivated, everything that's going on.
Yeah. So Republicans and Democrats both gerrymander. Let's be real. They both do it.
And gerrymandering
is basically drawing the maps, the district maps, in your favor. Like, know where red voters and blue voters are, right? And so you can draw the maps through a neighborhood or around it, right? You're creating these districts to give
Right.
yourself more congressional representation or state representation. And both political parties do this in their favor. If you look in the Northeast in New England, there's not a single red district in all of New England. That's
Not surprising.
6 states, 21 districts, not a single one red, and 40% of the people who live there are Republican.
Wow.
Yeah, right? But the maps and the districts, it's kind of what they just tried to do in Virginia, right?
Yeah.
Virginia, it got shut down by their state court because they didn't follow the right procedures, but they tried to change their map. Currently, they have a map of 6 Democrat districts and 5 Republican districts. Virginia is pretty blue or pretty purple, right? 6-5. They redid the maps to make it 10 Democrat districts and 1 Republican district. And the way they did that, because all of the high concentrated areas around DC, Northern Virginia, is very liberal. It's very blue. And so what they did was they drew the districts to where those blue districts kind of just came all the way down and encompassed those rural areas. There's not enough people in those rural areas to outvote the people up in Alexandria and Fairfax and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so, they basically redrew the map to where their voters would take over these other districts and outvote them, right? And turn it all blue. And so that's what I mean by they both try to do it.
Yeah.
But in the South, and this is only in the South, because of Jim Crow and the history and that kind of stuff, red states in the South were being forced by the courts to draw out majority minority districts. So basically, black people were getting their own district to where the black vote was enough to elect whoever they wanted to elect. Right. Which basically meant Democrats. And so in these red states, you had these Democrat districts that were untouchable. And anytime the red state would try to touch it, the NAACP or somebody would sue. It would go to the federal court. The federal court say, hey, based on the Voting Rights Act Section 2, y'all got to draw the lines like this, and you can't have. And so, and so you got these artificial Democrat districts in red states. Well, and so it started with Louisiana. Louisiana is what brought this to the Supreme Court. Louisiana redrew their map. They only had 1 black district, a majority black district. It got sued. The federal judge says you got to create a second black district. Man, they created this ridiculous second district. The first district was ridiculous as well, but trying to encompass the black people into one district made it just like, look, it looks like a river going down the middle of the state of blue. It's just not.
I'm gonna put an image.
Yeah, put the picture in there. It is not a natural drawn out of districts. It just isn't. Yeah. And so someone else sued that map and said this goes against the constitutional of equal protection, the equal protection clause, right? And the Supreme Court agreed with them, right? So now Louisiana has to get rid of that second black district because the Supreme Court said you can't draw a district strictly based on race. Well, that's what the South has been forced to do for decades. Is draw maps based on race, because anytime they didn't, the federal courts would make them go back and redraw it because the black people had to have their own representation. And the Supreme Court just said you can't draw maps where race is the primary factor. Right. You can't do that. That's unconstitutional. And so with that being said, all of these red states going, oh, well, we redrawing these maps then in our favor, which means Republican. It's about Republican and Democrat. It has nothing to do with them being black, right? And this is why I say there's no carved out white Democrat districts in the South. Like, there are white people who are Democrats, you know, but they don't get special consideration because they don't get represented. Like, it's not about race. It's about political representation and political ideology, and it's partisan. And so black people aren't voting for black people. They're simply voting for Democrats. And this is how we can show it. Tennessee, they complained about Tennessee and Memphis, that the one blue district in Tennessee went away, right? It was a 76-year-old white dude in that seat representing that district. the person favored to win that district now is a black woman. And yet they're saying this is racism.
And she's a Republican?
Republican, yeah. Because that's the thing.
We don't count though. You know,
that's the whole point. It has nothing to do with race. These districts they're not fighting for these districts because of race. They're fighting for these districts because they want power. And this is about Democrat seats. That's what they're upset about. And so with that being the case, the whole narrative about racial protection, it just goes out the window. Virginia, the Virginia governor's race, you had a black woman versus a white woman. Which way did black people vote? The black people voted for the white woman because she's a Democrat.
Yeah.
Who did remember, it wasn't too long ago, Obama was shaming these black men, saying they had a responsibility to vote for Kamala because she was a sister. She's a black woman.
Oh, yeah.
He then goes to Virginia and campaigns for the white woman against the black woman. Why? Because it's not about race. This is politics. It's about Democrat versus Republicans, right? And so now that we've established that, then you can't force them to draw Democrat lines and use race as an excuse for it. No. And so now the South is just drawing the lines the way they want to draw the lines, the way the North does. The North, I'm telling you, you put up a picture of the Northeast, New England, 0 red districts. In all of Massachusetts, Connecticut, Maine, Vermont, Rhode Island, all of these states, 0 Republican representation. And that's okay. But if the South tries to go all red, then, that's fascism, that's racism, that's this, that's that. The race card is just that. It's just a political tool to be used for your disposal for power. That's all it is.
Do you think the North will redraw their maps and balance it out?
Well, the North won't because, no, the North won't. I mean, they're all blue. But like I say, Virginia tried. They tried to make theirs more blue, and they failed. California has made theirs more blue because Texas made theirs more red. So, like, this fight is going on. It has nothing to do with black people. And this is what I'll say, because I know we got to wrap up.
Yeah.
Black people make the mistake of thinking everything is about us. Like, everything. If the president sneezes, they go like, man, that sneeze that was targeted at a black person. I know it was. Like, we think we're 50. We act like we're 50% of the population. We act as if every single thing is about us. Every decision made is about us. Everything Congress does is about us. Anything the state legislature is about us. Everything's about oppressing us. It's about us. And it's like, I said, I really want to free your mind. And this is just, listen to me. No one is thinking about you. Just free your mind. No one cares.
It goes back to what we were saying earlier, man. When you've been indoctrinated to believe that every move that it like now I listen to it, it's such a tired trope. It's like, they're just a bunch of racists. Everything the Republicans do is racially motivated. It's so dumb. Especially when you consider how much power you lose, influence you use if you're identified as being racist. I mean, I know that's partly why they do it, but you'll lose everything if you come out. If they find you said something racist, there's no benefit nowadays for it whatsoever. But yet we are still under the impression that every move that these people make is because they hate us. And it's insane. It's insane.
Because we've associated being black with being Democrat, right? And so anything that goes against the Democrats is interpreted as against black people, right? Because to them, we're one and the same. Or at least that's how they spin it for political reasons, right?
It's working.
It absolutely works. But it's finally like it doesn't matter anymore. And they're gonna find out that Democrats care nothing about them because the Democrats already knew they weren't winning these red states in the presidential election, right? But they still cared because they get congressional seats out of these red states. Now that those congressional seats are gone, they're not gonna care. They are not gonna care about these people at all. And this is what the black people know, and that's what black leadership in these communities have been milking the community because they've made a deal. Basically, the person that's in the seat, their job is to keep the community loyal to the Democrat Party. Right? That's it. And that's all they've done is keep the people loyal to the Democrat Party, maintain your seat, maintain your power, maintain your support from the Democrat Party. And as long as you keep delivering for them, they'll make sure you stay in that seat. And that's all it's been about. It hasn't had anything to do with uplifting Black people, caring about Black people. It
Not
is
at all.
no, it's all about themselves, right? It's funny. It's funny how Black people, well, some of them can, some of them can't. But it's funny how Black people can see like the grift with these pastors and how these pastors are playing them. And like, man, that dude's just about money. He's just trying to, but they don't see it with the politicians. They don't see the grift with the politician. The politician is just there to get paid.
It's almost like the politician is taking the place of the pastor in the Black community.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, especially if you throw Reverend in front of your name, like Jesse Jackson or Al Sharpton or Warnock, right? That's the golden ticket right there.
Wow, man.
But that's what's going on with the redistricting and stuff. It's just partisan politics, and race is being thrown out there, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, and I think Black people are actually going to come out better, because that symbiotic relationship with the Democrat Party is going to be broken. And once that's broken and you don't have this kind of reliant on the system is going to be fixed for us, and we're going to, at some point, you got to realize that you just got to make your own. You got to do for you. It's what you make it. And I'm hoping that is where Black people go, and just kind of release this idolatry of political power, as if politics and government is the way to make change in your community. While you out here, marriage rates super low, out of wedlock birth rate super high,
abortion rate,
abortion rates. Kids can't read, and like there's no policy that's going to change that. There's no new funding that's going to come in to change that. Right. None of it. Like. But we keep thinking government is the solution, because that's what the civil rights movement taught us.
Wow.
And so I'm hoping that gets broken and people wake up and realize, like, oh no, I actually have to go and do something. I actually have to change. I have to actually read to my kid.
Oh, God forbid. For something.
Yeah.
Man, brother, I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, man. I'm going to have you back on, because there's a lot more we could talk about.
I know.
And a lot. I have my little list of questions up here. We kind of flowed and touched on a little bit of everything, but there were some specific issues that we didn't touch on. But again, Lord willing, I'll have you on again.
Absolutely, man. Just let me know when.
And really get to the root of, and you started off like kind of breaking it down, like the root of who the Democrats are, where they came from, and their ideology and whatnot. But great conversation, brother. Again, like you did in the beginning, tell the audience where they can find you, whether on Facebook, on Substack.
Yeah. So I just tell people a lot of times, if you just Google my name, Kevin Briggins, it'll come up. I'm the only Kevin Briggins in the world, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, Facebook, Instagram, X, Substack. And and go to the Center for Biblical Unity at centerforbiblicalunity.com and check us out. And you can also find us on YouTube at that same thing, Center for Biblical Unity. And Informed Takes. That's my other podcast, Informed Takes podcast. So,
all right, sounds good. Once again, I appreciate having you on, brother. To the audience, as always, it's been great. And in the meantime, stay safe, God bless, and make sure you join the conversation. Peace out.